Hey everyone, are you ready to grow your own fresh, delicious vegetables, herbs, and flowers this season? If you're looking for the highest quality heirloom organic seeds, I've got the perfect company for you, True Leaf Market. They've been a trusted seed company since 1974, offering 3,000 types of non-GMO varieties, everything from classic heirloom tomatoes and peppers to rare herbs, microgreens, sprouting seeds, and beautiful flowers. All their seeds are open pollinated, pure, and perfect for home gardeners or anyone wanting healthy, flavorful produce without chemicals. What I love the most is their huge selection, fast shipping guarantees, plus options for bulk if you're going big. If you're excited to start your garden this year with real, authentic heirloom and organic seeds, click the link in the description box below to check out trueleafmarket.com. You won't regret it. Happy planting, and thank you for supporting the channel and this broadcast. This is not a toothpaste. It's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts, Alfa Vedic dental solutions system. That's alfavedic.com/civilization. You know, we're always trying to bring you the best products here that we think will enhance your life, especially if supply chains break down further, or if there's some disruption in our lives here. It seems in the news more and more possible, but hey, who knows? Maybe it's a mind game. But what is not is keeping your dental health up. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? Will your toothpaste eventually run out? Well, if it does, then what? So like I say, this whole micro gut biome is driven by your oral cavity first. So take a look at what they have, alfavedic.com/civilization. Every purchase you make helps keep our live radio show and podcast on air, bringing you more information just like this. alfavedic.com/civilization. That link is in the show notes below. And as always, I appreciate your valuable time and joining us in this ever and most important conversation as we move forward in our world.
Please remember to sign up for our show notes. With Civilization Cycle podcast, you can learn what to expect as society resets. Agriculture, economy, tech, and history all have mappable cycles, and these cycles affect every aspect of our lives. We can navigate the chaos and thrive together with up-to-date news and information. Also, if you like the content we have here on Civilization Cycle, think about fueling the discussions and the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. And thank you for all the support.
And welcome to the Civilization Cycle podcast. The blockade is the ultimate result and the ultimate choice for those disgruntled across the agricultural industry from Greece all the way through Europe into Brussels. No food, no people, no civilization. That's what I don't get, is why the EU is trying to stop their own farmers from growing food to the point it's bankrupting them. Yet around the world, prices are becoming higher and higher as that food should be grown and exported out. It's creating, everywhere we look, there's some sort of discombobulation, if that's the better term, from Southern Africa and Ukraine and those, African nations buying from there. Now we got Venezuelan grow zones going offline, deep cool in different places. That's taking crop production out of Asia. It just continues. And then, you know, you think that the entire world would come together right now and be like, we need to grow more food. It's getting more expensive. There's different weather patterns taking hold that are disrupting the known, you know, grow and plant seasons. So perhaps, well, maybe we should work together to grow food. But nope, it's the complete opposite is happening. So it's going to take human intervention, human solutions to come through this. What is being dictated, I do believe, on high by some sort of machine intelligence. Most of what you're seeing is gamed out machine intelligence telling governments what to do and how to play it into the microcosm of politic. So again, it's going to come down to human solutions, not, like I say, or intelligent digital puppet stringing to bring us to a better world here. So you're gonna have to grow some of your own food. That's no BS assessment to start us off. Thank you for joining tonight. Your time is valuable. That was a article off of sot.net. I hope I can find it again. I hit the phone just before we started the show. But how would think about if things continue in America and snowball, will this affect our agriculture this coming year for planting and harvesting? You know, because a lot of these things going on in the Midwest grow belt area, i.e., the tip of it right up near Minnesota, and also if you're coming down from Alberta and Saskatchewan, all the way down through that into the grow belt area. Oh, and that's a beautiful representation where the icy cold air, the Arctic front's blowing through that exact same area. That's our grow belt. So if there were disruptions in that, would there be disruptions in delivery of those farm implements and farm, I guess, goods that are what is responsible for our planting and harvesting or not? That's the question. Ransom, thank you for joining me. Floor's yours, man.
All right. Yeah, it looks like
It's
it's
the
about
central point of a lot of things.
right. It looks like it's about to get nipply a couple times this month there, according to that thing they posted there. It said that, let's see, not one, not two, not three, but 4 or 5 plunges of polar air will probably hit the United States through the end of the month. And there's their little graphic showing that. Yeah, and one of those reaches all the way down to the Yucatan.
Yeah, you're looking at sub 30. And isn't that incredible that the reason it's bypassing and going straight past the Gulf of Mexico, you got to think about that water is its own ecosystem of temperature. Like Republic of Georgia, it has the Caspian Sea on one side, the Black Sea on the other. So it's pretty regulated in temperature because both of those water bodies are responsible for the ambient temperature not changing incredibly. I mean, unless it's an intense storm. But the two water bodies are regulating temperature just like they are there in the Gulf, and it's spinning and going around that all the way down. You know, what you're seeing here is, I wouldn't say historical, unprecedented, but it is very deep. And if it continues on as such, that would go even past what you're talking about to the Yucatan and even further down into, I wouldn't dare say the Panama Canal, shall I? That was a cue for you to talk.
Yeah, I think we got a little delay.
Welcome everybody to the show.
I was gonna say though, it does look like it dips down real close to Panama there, but not all the way. That last little one goes all the way down to Belize, Costa Rica, Guatemala. Pretty chilly for those parts.
If you really want to get an indication, you have to go to tropicaltidbits.com and go to the analysis models and then go down to the 2-meter temperature. That's what you're seeing spinning right there. Tropicaltidbits.com there, Ransom. Left side, you're going to see thermodynamics, and you're going to click on that. The 2-meter ground temperature anomaly, that's that map that you just looked at. What you really want to look at is the shaded contour temperatures on that, because that'll show you exactly what the temperatures will get to. Now, it shows that super blue, and yeah, it is very much cooler, but when you look at those temperatures, if the regular average temperature is 80 in the winter, that going to 60 doesn't really make such a huge difference. Now, Ransom, at the top there, I'll walk you through it. You see where it says forecast models and analysis tools? Yeah, hit on the forecast models there. And on the left side, it should say thermodynamics. Scroll down a little bit more. Okay, regions. Okay, the U.S. See where it says precip, moisture, lower dynamics, upper dynamics. Go to the thermodynamics on the very right side there. Yeah, and then you see 2 meter temperature anomaly at the very, but just above that. One more down. Yeah, 2 meters. Yep. That's what you're looking at. What you showed me is a moving, it's just these every 6 hours turns into that moving graphic that you have, and then you can set how many frames you want per second to move through that frame rate. So you got 120 frames, you can set it at, I don't know, 3 frames a second, and it'll look like that one you just showed me. But if you go one by one on this, there should be an arrow at the top there where you can click in it, and it'll go every 6 hours. Yeah, the arrow, it'll spin you through the time if you click, and it'll go, yeah, okay. So it's not a whole day, but it'll take you through. And then your slider bar at the top only goes so far. This is GFS model. You can go deeper into analysis further past the 20, whatever this ends up being in the global at the ECWMF models. So go to global there. That takes us to the 31st there, Ransom. Go right up where it says global. ECWMF, that first choice there up top. Yeah, click on that. And where does that take us to the 21st? Okay. So there are different model runs, and some of them are a little more precise because, see, that only comes to the 21st. It's going to be a tighter run versus the one that went much longer out. So it's just a guess when you get out that far. But if you go down onto the 2-meter contour, that'll show you the actual temperature you were looking at. That will go all the way down to Guatemala there. The actual real temperature on the ground, not just temperatures below the normal average. Because it'll probably be in the 60s or 50s. It won't be like blue. It makes it look like freezing. But if it were to be, yeah, if it got into the 50s or 40s, that would be unusual. Costa Rica in the 30s, like, come on, man. Doesn't happen too often. It snowed big old flakes here today. None of them stuck, but they were the super giant ones that were coming down. It's kind of fun to just watch that.
Oh, you got some nice weather out there right now. You're in the bottom 20s over here, huh? 15s,
Yeah.
18. Damn. Chilly. And
Yeah,
I was going to tell people to oh, go ahead.
What? No, I was going to say, since you had
people
that thing, let's look around the map. Let's go to the North Pole, and let's go down to Antarctica and take a look at the temperature since you had Venture Sky open. Let's do a little interactive. I'm curious myself. Coffee, everybody. Cheers. Thank you for buying us a double espresso. Thank you for buying us a coffee. Trying to bring you the truth in our time of deceit here. Yeah, check out some of these temperatures. When Greenland, it's going to melt away, Ransom. It's melting.
Yeah.
Run.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's pretty nice temperatures there. -40. And why do we want that again? Oh, yeah. Strategic location. That's what it's for.
Strategic. But if you go above that, the entire Arctic where the Russian, we talked about this. And by the way, it's in the show notes that I'd sent out this evening. Thank you, everybody, for signing up. Civilizationcycle.com. It's right there at the top above the fold. Just put your name, get notes now. And it's just 10 bullet points of what we talked about during our shows. So what's the temperature in Antarctica, Ransom? Random question. This test, it's a pop quiz.
Antarctica, huh? Let's look right here.
Yeah, you got to go back to Venture Sky and go to the southern pole and see what's going down there. We can look at also the aerosols. I'm curious about with the Hungatonga eruption and the ice crystal surfaces in the mesosphere, if the ozone is depleted below normal down there right now because of that event.
It looks like it's about the same as Greenland there. -38, -40. Let's see over here on the other side. -29, -33. Actually, quite warm compared to up here.
Well, they're coming in the middle of summer down there, so the warmest year ever definitely should be warmer than that, I would think. It's bikini weather in Antarctica all the time, at least on the magazine covers, right?
And then you got -44 over there in -59. Wow, over there in Siberia and China is looking kind of chilly too.
Yeah. If you go to the top where those 3 bars are, you could probably get a few more overlays on here. So maybe not. Oh, that's windy when the thing's on the right where you can get the overlays, different kind of 2-meter above ground models. Okay, what else can you slap on there as a chart? I'm wondering what you got for ozone on that. Like ozone below, it'll show you the averages if it's below or above the actual ozone measured over the last 40 years. Because that was a big indicator right there. When you were coming in, the Hungatonga eruption, like all that water went really high up to around 90,000 feet. And it was ice crystals. Now that ozone, that O3, will land on an ice crystal surface and then break apart. And it'll become an O2, like a regular oxygen molecule. And then you're going to have this one single. There's an O2. Like in nature, it binds. And then you're going to have Another one trying to jump state and hold off of itself, and it's continually trying to bump into another one to find it. So these are continually getting ripped off. And this ionization that occurs as these drift down, there's a depletion in the ozone layer. So when they say don't spray your hairspray, I'm wondering what was going on in the 70s that really caused that, because I could it have been chlorofluorocarbons? Yeah, it could have been a little bit, but ice crystal surfaces seem to be a big one that I read a lot of research after the Hungatonga eruption, the way that ozone depletion occurs, because in the mesosphere, there's not a lot up there, really. You don't get a lot of moisture up in there. You might get some rocket re-entry or launch kind of debris in there that'll be a cloud builder and a surface for ozone to deplete on and get ripped apart. Otherwise, there's really not. It's a very dry layer of the atmosphere, like a desert layer, literally. But a huge, hurricane came in there and dropped a bunch of moisture. And the last time it had happened was 200 years ago. Is the ozone depleting? I don't know. We need to go to NASA Goddard ozone and check that out. But thought I'd ramble there. Let me see if I can find that for you. I do want to go to the ozone map if nobody minds.
Nah, go for it. I was just thinking, if we could save up enough buy me a coffee money, we could go, me and you could go for a small price of only $2 million, and we could stay on the moon in one of their hotel rooms while they deplete the ozone going up and down.
I will spend no more than $3,699 per day on my accommodation.
And that probably won't cover us getting past the atmosphere there. I don't know.
You have to rent the air, my friend. So you can't exhale on the moon. They recycle it, and you can get cheaper air because it wasn't that filtered from the last few people who breathed it.
Yeah, where are you supposed to smoke a cigarette at?
Yeah. See, I would get the discount air, but I'd have to rebreathe part of that. That's the discount, dude. It's a discount.
Oh man. Yeah, but
$1 million
huh?
down there, it doesn't look too crazy. But again, this is high ozone time. Winter time is when it gets a little bit lower. Let me show you. Shall I share my little ozone screen? I think I shall. Let me see. Keep your ozone hole away from me. There you go. So in terms of Dobson units, the scale says it all. Like the higher it goes in the higher pinks, the more ozone there is. The lower it is, like, oh, it's going to burn. You got to throw away your hairspray is probably somewhere around in the dark purples and pink, dark purples, darker pinks down there. It's about average right now, as you can see. The greens, it's pretty well centered, though. See, that was the whole thing, is after the Hungatonga eruption, it got into this cavitation, and it really looked like 5 fan blades. No kidding. And they were just going around, and between that, there was big gaps in between it as it was spinning around, and it really looked like a fan blade formation there. So now what you can do also is, this is January of this year of 2026, but you can come back, and if you want to look back in time, you certainly can. So right after the Hungatonga eruption, let's say in like January of 2023, it should look a little bit different. No, it looks sort of the same, didn't it? Well, that's a high ozone anyway. Let's go into the middle of like August of 2022, shortly after that eruption. See how blue it is right there? Like the ozone had depleted tremendously during that time. And far wider out. Usually it'll touch the cusp of the peninsula or even be back of that. Like that was very large and very wide, this hole here. Hungatonga effects right in front of you. So this is what I thought would be occurring more and more as we got further into. Now you go September of 2022, and it even got darker purple, and you can see it decreased even further to the ultimate low. They used to go to this like yearly low around this time anyway, but it was lower than low. It was below 100 Dobson units. So at that point, that is what they had talked about in the 1970s with hairspray. Like so at that level there.
Where's the correlation with the amount of lightning strikes? Because we know lightning produces about 2 to 16% of the ozone that we have in the atmosphere. So if you have periods with lots of charged particles coming down and that being equated to lightning, you should get a lot more ozone. Less lightning should mean less ozone over time.
I'd agree with you. And then I was wondering myself about that balance of, after the Hungatonga eruption ripped an enormous amount, like, just go with me with your head and then Ransom's thought. If it ripped all that extra moisture up into the high atmosphere, But at the same time, would it have allowed some other electrical phenomenon to occur to keep that more in balance and stasis where more ozone would be produced? You got incredibly low ozone hole because of all the mesospheric ice crystal clouds depleting ozone. And then would that allow a different electrical, let's say, connection through that? And because of that, down further where that, that's an imbalance of temperature, and there's a lot of moisture there right over the ocean. So wherever that will collide, and you get a huge amount of lightning through like South Africa and southern South America and Australia, and the record floods and all those things happening there, you got to wonder about, what types of higher atmospheric lightning were occurring that were coming down. The electrical edge of that would have been just perfect
Right.
to balance that loss out from higher up. I'm wondering if there is a balancing mechanism because it's electricity, it's a potentiality flow. So it'll probably roll from one down to try to keep in balance and stay, because everything wants to keep in harmony and balance, right? An overcharge is going to discharge.
Yeah, and according to what this thing I just read, it produces about 376 pounds of ozone per strike. Then you can multiply that times how many ever lightning strikes happen today. But according to this, without that, there would be no nitrate production and then no plant life or no protein synthesis happening at all without that. So if we don't have lightning storms, we don't have ozone, we don't have plant life, and they're crying about carbon dioxide.
We love nitrogen too. I love CO2. I'm going to be a gas lover, dude. I'm just going to put gas lover. That's a cool one too, because maybe people like to drive cars, but gas lover, O2, N. Now think about that. Without the nitrogen, you wouldn't see what he's talking about and described was fertilizer production in the skies that catches in the rain droplets and comes out and allows plants to grow.
And that
you should jump for joy when you see a thunderstorm because it's a fertilizer cloud coming at you, basically, in a rudimentary sense.
And that also makes you wonder why there's so much about trying to eliminate. Isn't that one of the things that they're wanting to reduce is nitrate from cow poops and all of that?
Mm-hmm. And you have to wonder, well, that's an animal source that's here. It's not in a gaseous form. It's coming out as nitrogen of an animal. It's much denser. So you have to wonder what they're thinking about that too. Is there some correlation where some of it's released back up and it comes back down? I'm not sure.
This says nitrate production from lightning produces at least 10,000 tons daily, essential for plants entering the food chain. That doesn't even sound that much. I mean, when you think about the size of the planet, 10,000 tons doesn't sound like that much, but obviously it is.
Yeah, and if there was an electrical disruption that somehow stopped that lightning to occur in certain regions of the world, that would cause a decline in yields. See, people think just strictly about rainfall and that's it. Well, what about, you're talking about nitrate production deficits, because the electrical frequency or the electrical discharge that normally takes place in spring there or late summer or whatever storm between seasons happens, if that stops, that would be a disruption of the nitrate cycle as well as the hydrological cycle, both. And then what? Then your plants, they don't get fertilizer from the sky and they don't get water from the sky. Gee, that's bad. You start to layer those things on top, and then what happens? New winds, all the country's bankrupt. There's no farm financing. There's no nitrates from the sky. Damn, man. Like you could wreck a country that way. If you could shut off the electrical connections in the sky to that part of the world, if that somehow could be disrupted so there was no lightning, is our tech that advanced?
I don't think so. I mean, or if maybe we're going the other way. I mean, because as you know, lightning strikes have been increasing over the past, I'm going to say 5 years since I known about it. More lightning each year, which that might be why they're attacking all this stuff, is because they literally cannot control the weather, even though, they insist that they can. They put out information to make people think that they can. And I think that's what it's been all about from the beginning. That's why Bill Gates and all these people are putting up stuff in the atmosphere, because when the climate really does change substantially, where the entire world notices it, they'll be there to take credit for it, or maybe their children, but they'll be like, my dad is the one that saved the atmosphere by putting all that junk up there, and we cooled off the warming planet. Thank you.
He was
I
a
don't think
sky
so.
pirate,
Taking credit for God.
an atmospheric marauder. Yeah, and that is it. They would ride. Don't kid yourself. Now, if you were if you knew these cycles and you had, previous, cycle knowledge, you could spoof the planet literally. Okay, it's warming, and like all these excuses, but then you knew that cooling was going to turn on, and all the obscure weather you would see, and all these bizarre events that we're seeing of twisting and turning of what we used to know as weather being normal. That's just part of the cycle. That's what happens when the cycle is starting and intensifying. That's a signal of it. It's not because you did something. That's a signal because the cycle's like on, it's kicking back on again. Got to have an excuse, of course. But it took about 40 years for that to really ramp up to the point we are now. But, again, like laws, what kind of curvature are we looking at about it? There's many different ways to run forward with this in the future. Are we at some sort of rollover exponential event that I'm not sure myself, It seems that the intensity of things have overwhelmed humanity at the point now where it's every storm overwhelms anything that we could possibly use as a protective, let's say, barrier from society. Waves, wind, landslides, whatever it is. Earth rifting, where the bridges and the pipelines and the rail lines come disconnected from the earth itself. There's just so many things going on that are overwhelming our construction and our engineering, like every single time now. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I started the channel, not so much. Yeah, there were a lot of big ones, and it was like, wow, you could start to see the intensification, but not like now. Every single event overwhelms now. So where does it go from there when it gets like 10 times overwhelmed? I mean, what kind of news story is that? 20 times overwhelmed, 50 times overwhelmed? At some point, it's to the point where it's so disruptive that it can't be repaired before the next one comes, and then that break off becomes continuous, and then there's that, I wouldn't say never-ending separation, but a disconnection of centralized systems for a while. Guess that's the best way to put it.
Well, it's funny to me because, we've been talking about this half a decade at least together. And the question always comes up about this new world order or new order of things. And it's funny because I keep seeing these memes. I put one out on our Telegram channel. Somebody had put a meme where they just put Trump and they circled the Americas. And then they put Xi Jinping and they circled, like China and Southeast Asia. And then they had a third circle that was Putin, and it took over Europe there. So they had these three blocks, and everybody, was posting that around. And I thought, well, that's very familiar. That's the Trilateral Commission's plan for the future of the New World Order. In their words, not mine. And I don't know if you saw this, but the Prime Minister of Canada was basically, bowing to the Chinese and telling them we look forward to being part of the New World Order, but not our side of the New World Order, but their side of the New World Order. So there's going to be a couple of new orders coming out as far as that goes. And you can clearly see that we're segregating the planet up into three blocks. It seems that they're leaving Africa as like a fourth block for the other three blocks to resource management area, so they're not going to let that really get too sophisticated, except for our smart cities and our little areas that we set up there. But I don't think that they're going to let them industrialize past the three blocks controlling whatever industrialization happens. They're not going to give it over to the Nigerians or the Ethiopians or the Somalians or take a pick of any, African country. They're not going to have control of that. Some outside superpower is going to be controlling whatever resources, water, food growing, all of that. And that's what we've been talking about for a while, that the investment is going in areas around the equator. But the destabilization programs are in full swing in the northern latitudes. One thing you never see really is, in the southern part of the world, except for maybe Argentina and Chile and stuff like that, you don't see much destabilization going on. Like, they're not really hitting New Zealand or stuff like that. But what they're doing there is incorporating a complete police control of what civilization lives there, which is low populations. And we all know that the mega billionaires are setting up, getaway places for them to go when the stuff hits the fan. They're just going to go down there and wait it out. They'll come back and, utilize their resources they set up. So I think that they are literally waiting for some kind of uncontrollable event that's out of their control, but they're setting up redundancy programs so that they'll maintain power shortly after it's over.
Yeah, and you have to think about that. In the Southern Hemisphere, it's probably what you would consider like 1950s population in the Northern Hemisphere. I mean, the density per mile of people and the development. So many people have left Africa, all the migration that has come out. And, Ransom, thank you for the 5-year anniversary. Yeah, we're over on a Civ Cycle on X. So at Civ Cycle, CIVCYCLE. Drop in over there, check out a couple of the posts up on X. You can retweet or quote tweet us. Tell us what you're thinking. Also on buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. Help us out there. We're trying to speak the truth here. And this is what we do every week. Try to bring you the stories. I was going to say that I'm going to say, I don't know how much I disagree with you about parts of Africa not being developed, because everything I've seen with this new Renaissance Ethiopian dam and the 6 subsequent step downs of dams and hydroelectric projects out of Ethiopia highlands. The war in Sudan that we're seeing right now is over transmission cable routes. Where are those high voltage direct current cables going to run to after the electric's produced out of the six hydroelectric dams off of Ethiopian highlands? That is what's being fought out right now, is where does it go and who controls the routes of power out of there down to Tanzania, down to the Horn of Africa. They want to get to Tanzania. They got some big ass ports down there.
Well, what I really meant is they're not going to allow the Africans to industrialize to the point of a middle class. I'm not saying they're not. That was kind of my point, is the major blocks will be industrializing, removing resources, having resources and things like that. It's just not to the benefit of the biggest population in the world.
Or us, man. It's not for the benefit of us either at the top of the world here, Ransom. It's not for any humans.
No, and then you're looking over here in the U.S., and we're supposed to be having a golden age, but it looks like it's not so golden. You get, or at least according to the news.
Can you read the news headline? I can't really see that. It's too far away.
It says cracks begin to appear in the nation's biggest banks this week. Bank of America, Citi, J.P. Morgan, and Wells Fargo released fraught earnings, reports the president. Trump's threatened cap on credit card rates. So they're crying that they are not making enough money. And then, with all of the people leaving, I've seen lots of articles saying how great it's going to be for Americans because they're removing other people. But at the same time, banks are seizing up all the homes. They're not really going back into the market for the everyday average American to be able to afford a home, buy a home, or even finance a home. And then, think about what they were talking about, the 50-year mortgages and stuff. 50 years for the average population is at least 2/3 or more of their lifespan. And so they're not going to be paying off a 50-year mortgage. Maybe their kids or grandkids might be doing that. But think about this. This is almost 400,000 homes seized by banks. What do you think they're going to do with them? Do you think they're going to put them out on the market at a cheap, reasonable price range for single family homes? I don't think so. I think that
they're going to knock them down.
Yeah, they'll probably either knock them down and replace them with what do they call it? Low income housing. Or condos or something really nice. Either one on the spectrum, either for really poor people or for really rich people, but not the middle class.
So where do you go then? Yeah, now that whole thing about JP Morgan, not only is it what they're talking and belly aching about the 10%, but some of these banks are borrowing hundreds of billions of dollars a night to stay alive, just like they were in 2019 at the end of the year in November and December of 2019, just before COVID started. The exact same thing started. Like they were talking about a major catastrophic bank collapse because the banks, get this, were borrowing $1 trillion a night to avoid insolvency because the money had been lent out and it's derivatized and it's out here and it's out there. And they can't get it all back in because of the losses if they were to sell, because they bought all these bonds. And it's just so far of everything that was bought during those times after it went away from zero interest rates, everything's negative. They're all at a loss now. So they're continuing to like recirculate these losses by borrowing, even though it went down, just to pay off that interest, just to keep it going. That next like bicycle sprocket move, one tooth forward every single night. And they're back up to around almost 300 billion per night again. But that's the way it started before. First it was 50 billion, then it was 100, then it was 200, then it was 300. We are back at the 300 billion per night for our banks to stay alive. And, you know, with the whole silver thing going on, and they've defaulted many a place. This is why the silver, I didn't even check silver today. I've just been working on our videos and trying to get some new sponsors. Thank you so much tonight for My Patriot Supply, Hemp Lucid, Alpha Vedic, supporting the program. You know, we try to bring you the truth every single week and dive deep into these stories. So please support our sponsors because they support us. But, you know, I had this article ready for you. Speaking of all these like things that are going to go on, Waverly cost of copper thefts threatens public safety. And it's already happening because copper went to over $6 a pound at $12,000 a ton. That so many people are, stealing copper. And this is, I wanted to talk about metals here for a second. So this headline here is a much grabber too. Maybe you don't want to respond to that, Ransom, before we start in. I got 3 slides here about where they're going to refine metals in Tennessee after they get them out of Venezuela. So the copper being the theft. Remember the copper theft? That was going on also. It happened in 2008.
Yeah.
Copper theft around the world is just devastating. There was another one that occurred, not to the same extent. It was around 2021 or something, 2020. Right as COVID was getting in, a lot of job losses. People were stealing the copper because the prices were going up. But this is already at a point where people are coming in and cutting and just trying to roll it up, put it in their truck and drive off there because it's so valuable. $12,000 a ton.
You know, I'm a pretty, I get into the conspiracy theories myself. So, when I was watching all that, I was thinking, if you were like in a think tank and you were like talking about how do we repossess all the metals that have already been produced in products and just sent out there, how do we do that? And I was thinking, with our history of weird stuff, which we'll get into also, of mind control and all the stuff, I wouldn't even put it past some think tank guy to say, hey, you know what, we can push methamphetamines and crack out there into the population, and then when they're broke, they'll scavenge every little piece of copper, tin, aluminum, iron. Not only do you get them to clean up the environment, but then the system reclaims all of that metal and reduces the population simultaneously. I know that's really far out there.
The prison industrial complex benefits if they're caught in the act of stealing said copper from an actual working line or device or house or warehouse. It's like a win-win-win all around, Ransom. I wholeheartedly approve of your plan. Now, you shall be in charge of a full state now.
I know my son last night when I was telling him stuff said, hey, stop giving the deep state ideas. Because I was talking about how easy it would be to, kind of manipulate people on various different topics. Here's one right here that I think is cool.
Now, Ransom, if I could respond to that, because can you pop that one back up where it says we're in a metals war with that?
Yes.
I just wanted to show everybody out there. Okay, so we talked about this last week, where the metal deposits were across Venezuela. So what they're going to do is they're going to bring this metal up here. And the only reason I was really onto this because it's not too far from where I live, actually. It's about 4 hours driving. It's a place called Clarksville. Now, south of that Clarksville, you come to this place called Nashville, which is the capital of Tennessee. Now, notice, it's along a river, but Lewis is Fort Lewis. There's also an army base there, and it comes along the river. And right where that really incredible sharp bend is, that's where the refinery is. It's the largest refinery in the United States that is still doing zinc. But in addition to that, they also do different types of metals. Like I said, in that really oblong loop on there on the river. NiStar Holdings, this is the zinc plant that all of the metals that are mined and taken out of Venezuela are going to come up here for refining. This is the whole thing, that they're going to expand this area. And if you look where you can see at the very bottom right, probably like 5 o'clock position where the loop of the river was. But if you look up to say, like the 10 o'clock position with Fort Campbell, Fort Lewis, right there is the line with West Virginia. Okay, so you can see where the smelter is approximately. It's right near an army base. Good place to put all the gold and silver. But what's really interesting is if you look from this destination to Fort Knox, it's only 113 miles. So if you were going to be driving and smelting gold, which they plan to, and silver, rare earths not so much talked about. It was more what we consider the base metals like copper, gold, zinc, silver. There was some other, what the hell, tin was in there too. All that's going to be refined down in, but the precious metals coming out of this area, this is going to be one of the most incredible precious mining or precious metals refining areas in America is they're going to be right here. But the reason I think they did that, they got the protection of an army base there. You're in a very conservative state that's pro everything, like protect everything. And then Fort Knox is only 100 miles away. So once you refine the gold out of there and you got massive amounts, you can fly it by helicopter up there, and it's just a very short jaunt away. So and that's where all of this is coming in from. Now, if you don't know anything about the Mississippi River, there's Clarksville. And if you go over west to Memphis there, that's the Mississippi River. So they're just going to take it straight out of Venezuela, up through New Orleans, up to Mississippi, and then boom, right over there to Clarksville. This is already the plan to take those metals out of the ground and get them smelted, excuse me for that, and get them smelted back. That's it. That is the whole plan.
You know, that's funny. Me and Rex went to Gilman, Colorado, I think in 2018, and we went looking around the old abandoned mine and the entire town that was closed down by the EPA. It's Gilman, Colorado. It's just a ghost town up on the mountains. And I got to see kind of firsthand what happens after, the powers that be are done with industrialization, right? They mine the money out of the ground and they will just leave people hanging. I mean, to the point where there's an entire ghost town with houses and, bowling alleys, churches, everything there, just completely, crossed out of existence.
Just left.
Yeah.
Left over. Oh, that's a crazy look right there. Is that a real town? Like, yeah, it looks like
it's Gilman, Colorado.
They just walked away from it. That's insane.
And it no longer exists. And, they left everything there. Washers, dryers. Like, there was appliances. See that truck right there? I could probably get it going today.
Rex
it ran whenever they left. You know what I mean?
You went with Rex out to this place. Rex is like, I got a new truck, dude.
Nah, but we went through the whole thing. I mean, and what's funny about, it's not so
that
funny.
Looks spooky. Anybody else out there with you? Did you see anybody else out there when you were there?
No, this is a complete ghost town. And
you were by yourselves out there.
Yeah, it was just me, Rex, and my son. Let me skip to this part.
Well, I hope you went out there armed, man, to protect yourselves.
No comment. But when we got in there,
slingshots. I'm talking about the slingshots.
This is what we found. Here, let me fast forward it to this spot here.
Yeah, please. This is really interesting. Keep going. I'm enthralled by this.
We found the medical facility in there where there was just thousands of X-rays. You can see right there on screen.
Hey, dude, that was my rib you just saw.
Right, and they all had cancer and breathing problems. And this was a zinc smelting place. I think they got silver and some other stuff there, but literally there was just thousands of records and they had to just leave. There's Rex right there with his stuff.
So, but all of them showed symptoms of some sort of bodily harm because they're breathing in fumes from working at the plant out there.
Yes, they would go home and their wives would wash their clothes, and then their kids would get just the dust soaked them. So they were breathing it. It was absorbing into their skin. And we literally went, we're just looking at old medical files there. I'm going to say thousands of different people with their x-rays. So like that, and they were just strewn across the place because they just ran off and abandoned it. And then the rain came and the snow came and, the whole thing got messed up. And everything was there, like mechanic shops, churches, bowling alleys. And then when we started getting into the homes, they were still, like, look at all that piping right there, iron piping. There's so many resources that just got left. There's a transmission for no reason on the ground.
Well, let me ask you a question. Like, why has nobody else started living there again? Or why didn't somebody just move in there and be like, all right, I'll take the house? I mean, this place, how far out of the way is it? How do you just abandon a town like that?
Well, the EPA came and shut it down.
So you can't live there.
No, you can't live. And not only that, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they have tore it down at this point now, and built a ski resort, or they have plans of building a ski resort, because it's been closed down since the mid 80s, but they were already trying to close it down. So these people left in the early 70s, and there's a whole generation of people there from the 40s on up that lived there, had families there, and like here's a good example of that right here. I got that sound turned off, but some of these pictures are legit pictures from the town in the 40s and early 50s there.
And that's the same town you were just showing us there. That was
there it is.
And what? They let that go? That's a cool spot.
Yeah, and a lot of these people, these pictures I found, had problems in their family for generations after that. It wasn't just them. See, because their whole everybody there was soaked in this stuff, in the dust. And despite having all that old equipment, they were breathing it. It was in their their clothes. They brought it home, and their kids got to bathe in the dust and stuff. They didn't know. Nobody told them that stuff could be toxic to them.
What was that, zinc, or what was it there? What were they mining?
Yes, it was zinc. Here, New Jersey. If I could find, I have a little one of the pictures.
So the EPA came in and said nobody can live in this town. That all of this area of land is completely declared like condemned, like nobody can live here.
Yes, yeah.
But now there's going to be a ski resort on top of it.
That's right. Well, I guess that it's.
You got to be kidding me. The land's condemned, but oh wait, we're going to put a ski resort on it.
No, it was just a weird thing to get to look at it.
No, you're taking me, man. It can't be real.
It's real. We went and looked at it. We didn't have the cojones to go all the way down in the closed mine and break off the chains and stuff. But that whole entire town, we looked at a good 20% of it. And here's the mines right down here off the cliff, right down there, where Rex is pointing. And you can see some of the land still stripped off to this day, that nothing's grown back on it. And this thing's at like 13,000 feet. I think that mountain he's pointing out there is 14 or more thousand feet. The whole nice, beautiful town's just completely gone, abandoned. And all of those people got sick back then. How about that?
That looks like some pretty cool area there. I mean, what's it look like in the winter? Totally covered in snow.
Yes, absolutely. That's up there in the high elevations. But they got their money.
But they walked away, and they only had to pay a few thousand in medical costs, and the lawsuits. Right. They could have had their lawyers drag it out forever and just bankrupt the other side, just never-ending coffers for the hours of attorney fees or whatever services rendered.
Yeah, half the houses
outweigh the people, man. They don't have the funds to do it. That's why those class action lawsuits work, because finally you got enough people together.
Right. And it really was spooky to go into these places where this whole community worked and lived, and their houses, basically, if the windows wouldn't have been busted by vandals, you could still live in most of those houses. I mean, aside from the toxic dust.
Yeah, aside from the toxic dust. I want to bring you over to, speaking of toxic dust, gambling, my friends, gambling. Polymarket. You're hearing about this in the news everywhere. Online crypto, I guess, calculation service is the best term to put it. So you can bet on whether something will be a yes or a no. So this is the climate and science area. So I wanted to run through with you, Ransom, here, and ask you some questions. And everybody out there, you're always like, you always talk about crypto and you always talk about the weather. Thank you. I read your comments. Can you put the two together? Yes, but here you go. Polymarket. So you can deposit any type of crypto. There's a whole bunch that you can use. So it's not financial advice. I'm just saying this is how Polymarket works. And you can bet on anything and everything. So this one here, the January 2026 temperature increase. And I wanted to walk you through, and somebody said, well, how do you think about these things? And I was like, all right. I'm looking at this, and the January 2026 temperature increase is the bet. So then you look down here. Will it be less than 1 degree Celsius total overall for the month compared to the baseline average? And then it said it will be 1 to 1.04 Celsius, and you have all these different ranges here. And the percentages of people betting on this that think it'll be in this range. So then I look down here and I'm like, I want to see the rules. Like, what is the bet? Literally, what's the bet? So the bet is they're talking about the anomalies of temperature based on the previous averages, but they're using the GISS temperature set, which comes down as a tabular form, difficult to look at. And they're asking you to do a bunch of division and this sort of thing with it to even figure it out. So it's NASA's Global Temperature Index. And if I were to bring you over to this slide right here, this is the one that is, as the calculation, whatever it turns out to be for January of this year, which would be 2025, at right over here, 2026, actually. They're looking for this to follow in 2026 January. So if the temperatures, whatever they fall in, that less than 1 degree, 0 or 1 to 1.04, etc., were to fall into those calculated areas, then you win the money. So if we go back to Polymarket for a second here, all these people are betting into what the market would be. Whoever loses, the rest of those people get the cash. So let's say you're at the 20% of those people win that, then all the rest of that gets consolidated and pulled in, and then it's split amongst those people who are already at the yes by 21 cents. So for them, they're putting 21 cents in, but they win 82 cents at the end because, well, they hoovered up everybody else's losses, and then that split amongst themselves. So somebody was saying, well, how do you know what the temperatures are, David? Because I was reading a comment earlier. So I'm going to take you over to Dr. Roy Spencer's site. And I thought I had this done earlier, but I guess not. So we're looking at the lower tropospheric temperatures. So you just need to go look for other charts that are like this. So if you're knowing that solar activity is declining currently, and that's not a very good shot. So let me see if I can get onto Dr. Roy Spencer's site himself here. drroyspencer.com. And they're showing you the temperature trends. So this is 1979 to 2025. And again, when you're doing the research to look at some of this climate anomaly stuff, all right, so just in a general sense, because the measurements are becoming so much more precise and we're coming into a cooling area, you can see that the trend is down slightly, not greatly, but slightly. And they're talking about a per decade trend. So like a 1/10 of a degree over a full decade, trying to wire it in on a single month here, like January 2026. Okay. But the trend is generally down. Okay. And we're coming into a grand solar minimum-esque climate anyway. A lot of things are trending down. A lot of global temperatures, especially North America, and a lot of different areas continentally are trending down in temperature this year, and especially the last few months. And as you look through some of these, we'll eventually come to this chart right here. This is a better resolution chart of the same one. So if we click, here it is.
Oh, there we go.
So then all you would have to do is then look here and say, all right, temperatures on, this is the University of Alabama, Huntsville temperature data set, lower troposphere, compared to the GISS NASA data set temperature set. It's exactly the same things on the lower troposphere. The other one's land and ocean, but you can see there's two different numbers that are coming out. So which one? It's not so much as which one's the most correct. It's about where's the trend going generally, and you can see it's down. It really like dropped off a cliff for the last 3. And just looking across all these different continental maps over the last 2 months, it's cooler than normal in the northern hemisphere, and the southern hemisphere hasn't really warmed that tremendously. So it's either at a even or a little bit negative, and that's just the trend. And I showed you the other trends too on the decade scale when they get more precise instrumentation. But if you're looking at where the trend's going, we've came off that super El Nino after the Hunga Tonga eruption. That caused a lot of heating in the atmosphere. The ice crystals are dissipated. The water is rained out of the atmosphere a lot. So it's going to have the inverse, where it's going to go colder because it's like an air conditioner as it pulls out that thermal like convection is the best way I could to term that. So then you will just run back over to your poly market and say, hey, what is the possibility of it? Now, if we look at Dr. Roy Spencer's site, then this is where the magic comes in. Then it's simple math at this point. So the temperatures are down, and how much is it down really? So is it going to be from 0.4 to 0.2? Okay, that's 2/10 of a degree drop. 2/10. And you're looking up here. Okay, it's been continually dropping down for the last multiple years. There has been a couple upticks and it does that, but then, you're looking at it, well, that's coming around somewhere in the summertime. Heating in the summer where it gets warmer in the summer, but cooling in the winter where it gets cooler in the winter. So we're coming into the winter. So just me watching these charts for such a long amount of time, I would bet it would drop somewhere down to like a little bit 0.3 sub that, a little bit down a little. So which brings me to the point then, if you're looking at a poly market, which temperature band is it going to drive into is the question. Because I don't like the way that they did the GISS. And I will say this to you, Polygon, or poly market, excuse me. I don't like the way this tab. Watch where my blue cursor goes down to here on the bottom. So what you want to do is you want to divide by 100 to get that change in Celsius. But then if you're going to divide that, multiply that result by 1.8 to get the changes in degree Fahrenheit. All right. So can you put it in an easier tabular form of what the precise exact specifications are off your poly market dashboard here? There's no 0.1C. You have to do the math of dividing that 1.38 by 100 and getting that number. Okay, so it's not there. See, these two are disconnected a little bit. What you're seeing there is not what they're showing you on that GISS temperature data set. So poly market, you got to connect these two a little bit better for the average person to look at. But anyway, I digress. If you were going to guess, would you guess the temperature trend is down is the question.
I would say so.
Yeah, but I don't know where their starting point is for it. So if we roll back on, let's say I'll share the tab again, share this tab. 2025, all the way into December, we're at 1.05 or 105. And if you divide by 100, that comes out into 1.050. Now, if it were line from there, then where would it take us? So
I had to bust out my bifocals to see the numbers there.
Yeah, well, I'm showing you the number that it is. Okay, so December is where my mouse is, 1.050 to 1.090 Celsius. That my mouse is where the December temperature was. It's asking you, based on the 30-year average, where is this going to go from here? I would say down. I would say maybe to 1 to 104. I don't think it's going to drop tremendously to like below 1. That's a huge drop, like half a degree Celsius. That's catastrophe type of stuff right there. But a single drop that is at 1.050 right now, if it were to drop down a little bit down, that'd be okay. Because a lot of people think it's going to range in there. It's going to stay from 1.05 to 1.09. It's going to hang there. It's not going to drop out of that band. Because the band is right at the bottom of the band right now. It's at 1.05. If it drops into 1.04, like you would see on the GISS chart here, then that. But a lot of people are brainwashed, think it's only going hot. It's only going hot. It's only going hot. Just going to get warmer. But perhaps, just perhaps, Ransom, this is what you're showing, and this is how you might want to look at poly market. I'm not saying anything's for sure, but being that close to the next level and that next layer down, you're right on the edge. So if we were to cool a sliver, just saying, I might take that chance, because for every 2 cents you put down, you get 80 cents back. So it's like a 4x. So $100 would be what, $400, something like that. And if you would allow me to continue rambling, here's my last one for you, Ransom. I got another biggie, and I would like you to answer this one for me. Right here. Hunga Tonga was a VEI 5. How many large volcanic eruptions of VEI 4 plus in 2026? Now, they're not very common, so some
Mm.
people are saying there's going to be none. I would say probably, if I were going to wager, one, because depleting magnetic field, an enormous amount of crustal anomalies, huge amounts of like tectonic activity, and there's always more earthquakes as we descend out of solar maximum into solar minimum. So I'm just saying that affects volcanism as well. So if there were going to be, it would be like this year, next year, or the following year to 2027, 2028, that it would probably be a higher probability of this occurring. But VEI 4, it's possible, but you're going to lock your money up the whole year when you could buy an ounce of silver for that and probably double or triple your money, where this is a possibility and you might or might not lose, but you need to lock that crypto for the whole year, waiting for this to either the event to occur and you get paid, or you wait to the end of the year and you don't get paid.
So you get paid out really good if you just pick 3 for 1 cent there, and 3 of them went off. And but who's going to be around to pay it?
Well, it's a smart contract, so it's not a who, it's an algorithm. It's a mathematical function that will pay it. It doesn't care about if you're scared or not. It is a programmed step-by-step set of instructions, whether you're happy, sad, or whether the last person's happy or sad, or whether you're hungry or there. It doesn't matter. It's like, it's mathematics. It calculates, it moves, it causes things. The contract, once the stipulation's met, then it sets off that next round of stipulations to be met before the next, I guess, chain can be moved forward in the authentication in the exchanging of funds to happen.
And that thing has everything. Like, what if I wanted to bet that a nuke would be used this year somewhere?
Oh, that's already on there. Yeah, for sure. Anything you could possibly think of. This is when they were talking about weather derivatives in Chicago. This is a very light form of that.
I'd be betting on 2 at least on that particular one with the VEI
2
force.
VEIs, 4 plus. That's a huge call, man. Maybe 1.
I was thinking Southeast Asia and probably Central America somewhere.
Every 1 cent you put down will earn you 99 cents if you were to say such a thing. Would you put $100 bet down on that? Because you could possibly win $9,000 plus if you were going to bet
that actually sounds like not a bad thing, because even if you lose it, I mean, it's like $100. By the time a year rolls around, you won't even care what happened to that $100.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh yeah, I forgot. Right when you
Speaking of the $100, please support our sponsors. Ransomware at the hour break here. Thank you for everybody listening. CivilizationCycle.com. Join us on Spotify as well for the podcast, The Civilization Cycle. Sign up for the newsletter, CivilizationCycle.com. Right there above the header, put in your email. We'll get you the notes. Got the QR code right there. Sign up. Give you 10 bullet points what we were talking about, and as well the show, if you want to listen to our previous broadcast, thecivilizationcycle.com, on Spotify and any other podcast players that you enjoy using. We'll be right back after the short break. Please support our sponsors because they support us.
Right.
The gift of stress relief. Rest well, wake clear-headed, melatonin-free sleep snacks. Master herbalist building and combining CBD, CBDN, functional mushrooms, other sleep-enhancing botanicals with an impeccable balance. One of the greatest natural sleep aids currently available. How about CBD topicals? Full spectrum, has benefits for inflammation and soreness on your skin. Body balms and body creams. What better gift to give relief? Please support Hemp Lucid, because by supporting Hemp Lucid, you are supporting us at the Civilization Cycle podcast, and you're actually supporting your health and yourself. Click on that link in the description box below the video, or tell them that the Civilization Cycle guys sent you. Product you love, the 72-hour emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. Not only emergency food, but camping food, and you can prepare that through the week as well. 20 delicious just add water meals. Think about creamy mac and cheese, hearty chili, sweet oatmeal. 2,000 calories a day. You need the calories. You're going to need to think and move. And the mashed potatoes, easier to make than oats, and you can add your own flavors. Goes with anything. For less than a couple of takeout meals at a fast food restaurant, get real peace of mind. And a real question to ask, how long could your family eat without leaving home? My Picture Supply, click on that link in the description box below. It helps the channel. Truth is hard to say and hard to hear. Most people choose silence. We choose to speak. Your support of our sponsor keeps the Civilization Cycle podcast on air and giving us the courage to keep digging. That link's in the description box.
We've been told that tooth decay and gum disease are inevitable. But what if they're not? What if everything you've been taught about invasive treatments to restore your smile was a myth? As a bioterrain physician and herbalist with over 40 years experience, I'm well aware that teeth are living tissues that connect to every other part of the body. Your overall health starts in your mouth. This is why I've created nature's perfect formula to remineralize the teeth and heal the gums. Using a blend of powerful ancient oils and minerals, along with the latest and cutting-edge herbal technologies, I formulated the ultimate natural tooth serum to ensure a bright smile and healthy gums.
This is not a toothpaste. It's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts, Alfa Vedic Dental Solutions System. That's alphavedic.com/civilization. You know, we're always trying to bring you the best products here that we think will enhance your life, especially if supply chains break down further or if there's some disruption in our lives here. It seems in the news more and more possible, but hey, who knows? Maybe it's a mind game. But what is not is keeping your dental health up. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? Will your toothpaste eventually run out? Well, if it does, then what? So like I say, this whole micro gut biome is driven by your oral cavity first. So take a look at what they have, alphavedic.com/civilization. Every purchase you make helps keep our live radio show and podcast on air, bringing you more information just like this. alphavedic.com/civilization. That link is in the show notes below. And as always, I appreciate your valuable time and joining us in this ever and most important conversation as we move forward in our world.
Please remember to sign up for our show notes. With Civilization Cycle podcast, you can learn what to expect as society resets. Agriculture, economy, tech, and history all have mappable cycles, and these cycles affect every aspect of our lives. We can navigate the chaos and thrive together with up-to-date news and information. Also, if you like the content we have here on Civilization Cycle, think about fueling the discussions and the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. And thank you for all the support.
And welcome back for the second hour right here. I would say mini Ice Age conversations. I'm still in the habit, but it is the Civilization Cycle. Now, I was looking here. Before we went on the break, this is an interesting thing. I was asking Ransom, do you think this disaster will happen? Well, here's a couple more disasters that we're going to get into. And I would ask everybody out there to think about, will these things happen? Because people are betting on them to happen or not to happen. And the whole part of looking at this, yeah, it's interesting in itself. And you can see perhaps how other people are thinking across the planet. But what they're finding is this is sort of an intuitive crystal ball based on like the human collective consciousness. That this, like Cliff High's web bots, picks up intuitive pulses, and people bet heavily or win on certain sides of things far in advance of it actually occurring. And this is there's a lot of, I wouldn't say precision, it's more like humble guessworking that seems to be once an event's in play that it almost knows the outcome through this platform here before the actual outcome. And a lot of times what occurs here, what people are betting on as the outcome, is truly the outcome in the real world. So it's a little bit interesting to look at that. So again, thank you for joining us for the second hour right here on the Civilization Cycle. Jump over to the civilizationcycle.com website right above the fold. We're gonna get your email, give you the show notes, get the notes, click that button on the bottom there. So to start us off here, do you think a 5 kiloton meteor strike will happen? Like, these are real things that people are betting on, a yes or a no. 52% chance. Like, whoa. What do they know about a meteor strike on the planet? 52, or yeah, 5 kilotons, 52%. 10 kilotons, that's huge. That's like you're getting into things that wreck parts of cities.
Right.
But here's where it really gets interesting. Will a 1 megaton, not a kiloton, that's 1,000 times bigger. Will a 1 megaton meteor strike in 2026? 100 kiloton, or 1/10 of a megaton, 9% chance. You know, people are actually betting on these types of things. But what I was trying to get at here to start the hour is the size, breadth, and scope of what some of these things. Natural disasters. Will there be a natural disaster in 2026? You can bet on this. Now, half the people are saying yes, but what are they betting on is the question. So half the people are saying there's going to be one of these events that happens. Now, keep in mind, any of these things themselves are going to be like devastating, but if all of them were to occur, so one of them has to occur. Any of these one, if they happen, a Category 5 hurricane makes landfall in the U.S. A major meteor strikes 10 plus kilotons. A major volcano erupts VEI 6, not 4, 6 and above. That's even bigger than Hunga Tonga.
All right.
VEI 6, you're looking at like a Pinatubo type thing. And then an 8.5 earthquake occurs. That's like Sundai and Fukushima earthquake size. If none of these events were to happen at that exact, they're very precise on what has to happen over this, measurable. If it's no, then the market flings back over to those people. So right now, what's so interesting about that is half the people believe at least one of these events will occur. I don't know how many people are willing to throw money out and go, hey, I'm just going to take a bet, maybe. Or do they intuitively feel something's coming? And this is the reason that we look at our world today. Do you intuitively feel that something is here? Because people are seeing it and feeling it. That's the whole thing. Why is the world spinning off base right now? What are people feeling? You know, do you feel like there's something just skittish, like some electric in the air? Lots of poly market does too. A lot of people are, you know, putting their energies into those bets. So do you think this is truly some sort of crystal ball, or is it just a bunch of people gambling some crypto?
I think it's kind of gambling for the most part, because you think about the odds on, you know, rocks hitting the earth there. The lower one was pretty high. What was that?
10 kilotons. That's bigger. That's bigger than a Chelyabinsk, but it's got to be a ground impact, I guess, not really an airburst.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, even 100 kiloton,
not airburst.
Say 100 kiloton one hit the ground. That's what, like, probably about 8 square miles of just utter devastation done right there. But
city killer.
That's, you know, that's not that big a deal. Let's talk about something bigger. Like, do they have stuff big enough on there? That's what I was joking about, where people are betting on it, that if it happened, you're not going to get your money because there ain't going to be no money.
Yeah, that's the thing. Now, so the smart contracts, they execute, and when parameters are hit, okay, you won, then this will happen after you win. This will happen after those people lose. So there's going to be all these steps, and the money's going to go in somewhere, and then there's going to be another calculation of who gets to split that, and the calculation, and it just works its way down. When one thing's met, the next thing executes.
Yeah, like, I would be willing to bet on a 7.5, but an 8.5, I don't know about that. I mean, you know, you do get 8s in Japan and Mexico City periodically, but I noticed that they put it at a 0.5 there, which is probably not that likely to happen. If they said 7.5, I'd probably bet on that one, that you're going to see another couple of those.
Yeah, this all hinges on stepping off a solar maximum, coming into solar minimum. Extreme low in solar activity. Like, if you already knew these things in advance, just the general way things are going to be moving is more onto the depleting. We're not even going to say depleting. The magnetic field depleting on the planet, which things are locked in place because of a strong magnetic field. So if that's going to get weaker, and things are able to move around more in the crust and rub against each other, and things are compressed, there's more compression. Volcanoes. There's more volcanoes erupting, more earthquakes. If that steps down further, then there's going to be a real disconnect at some point where the free flow of energies ripping through the crust and connecting through back out to space, like that's going to get amplified, supercharged, and that current's going to hit, and it's going to cause something massive, probably on a CME. Look for a coronal mass ejection going into a solar minimum there over maybe the South Atlantic anomaly or something, and you'll get that combination of electrical phenomenon, and boom, you get a large earthquake there.
Like, what if I asked you last year, like if on Polymarket, what are the odds that Home Depot would deploy sonic weapons similar to like the Havana syndrome? If I were to ask you that last year, like as a company, do you think companies are going to use military grade weaponry?
Of course they will in the future. In every dystopic movie we see, it's always those corporate oligarch, dirty, slimy ones that are at the top, and they're always controlling the cities, right? That's like the perfect MO. That's the perfect, plug them in. Your avatar is that.
Right. So you would have won big if you would have went on some outlandish thing like that last year. You would have won super big.
Like you could have, if you would have put your own bet, you could have been the one that started the betting. You have to ante up some funds though.
Right.
And you can start any question you want in Polymarket if you're the one that will put up at least the minimum base kitty to get that bet going. And I forget, excuse me, I just don't know what the numbers are on that. But anybody can start any question they want if they put funds up to start the question. So will Home Depot deploy Havana-style sonic weapons in 2025?
Right.
I would have read that and laughed and probably
well, you remember that
throwing it my way.
You remember the evolution of this. People said that the weapons existed. Our government said no, they didn't. Then all of a sudden, our own people in other countries decided. That's why it's called the Havana syndrome in the first place. Our own people started experiencing these things, and then they said, "Hey, wait a minute. We think someone's using this style of weapon against us." But then when they really thought about it for a minute, they say, nah, there's nothing to that. That doesn't exist. And now we're talking about deploying them again. And not just for crowd control, but to get rid of day workers at Home Depot. I mean, like you couldn't have bet. So you know what a good one would be on if you were going to gamble is this Greenland thing, right? Will the U.S. take Greenland in one fashion or another?
That would have to be in the political area. Would that be in the geopolitics or the politics?
I don't know. I'm just thinking like me and you. What are the odds on that we're going to either purchase or just take Greenland?
I don't know if it would. Oh yeah. Okay. So here's your chance. Will the U.S. acquire part of Greenland in 2026? 21% of the people say yes. 79% of the people say no.
That said a part of it, then that would be 100% chance because we're already taking part of it, right around our bases.
Yeah, there's 2 million in this pot already. So, those people that have put in there, yeah. I mean, yeah, will acquire a part. Does a military base in like a 12 square meter, does that count as acquiring a part of Greenland, or does it have to be substantial? You know what? We're going to have to read the, let me click.
I don't know. Some people might not think so because, Denmark's got their dog sledding teams out there to fight the U.S. government and keep us at bay. I'm just joking. Here's an article right here. Denmark's race to defend Greenland and why it may be too late. So I think we're already pretty much. See, the way I see headlines is whenever I hear someone talking about something for 3 months, I assume it's going to happen. Like for 3 months, they were talking about strikes inside Venezuela. And everybody kept telling me, nah, they're not going to do that. It's just bluff. Well, we did it. We not only did it, but we invited their leader to come stay with us for a little while.
Yeah. Do you think they'll do the same with Greenland?
Well, there's nobody.
It was been such a shock through everything that everything we knew in terms of the world, the way anything operated Previously to that point will have completely dissolved into an ethereal fog because it won't exist anymore. Like the world's been and gone will basically be trying to find a world that's been and gone. I
Yeah,
find great song.
it's like what was the other guy's name that was in there before this guy? I forgot already. Trudeau, right? If Trudeau was still in office and you said on Polymarket, what's the odds on the next leader saying, "Hey, you know what, China, sign us up for your new world order"? I would have said that would have been like a 90+% chance that would happen.
You know, so in your face that you look at some of these things and go, you're not working for the country. Like, how are you even able to stay in your position? Forget charges or anything like that. Forget all that like litigiousness of it all. Just like so in your face, like you're out of there, bro. Like, how can they be allowed to continue in their space when they're doing something that's so absolutely detrimental to the country and telling you such?
Well,
I'm still shocked. Like,
here's another good one because we've been hearing about this since 2015 or 2016 when Trump first got in office. He's going to put in the Insurrection Act, and then they started talking about it. Then he left office. They were still talking about it. He came back in office. They're talking about it. So what are the odds that they'll actually use the Insurrection Act? I would say it's pretty high.
Yes. This time I'm going to be an affirmative on that. They will.
I would think so too. I mean, because it's almost like if what I was saying a minute ago, you get some guys in a think tank and you say, "Hey, we need this to happen. How can we have that happen?" And then you just let it loose. You put the scenario out there and let it build itself.
Because you can always recontain it at sometimes. It's like a controlled burn. I have a forest, and there's always things falling, man. There's more wood than you can ever burn. If you own more than like 10 acres or 20 acres, it's nonstop forest maintenance, even just to maintain the property so it doesn't become a fire hazard. You're continually burning stuff, not 24/7, but like every week you're going bonfire big style if you really want to keep it under control. Like trees are falling all the time. There's always debris.
Right.
But,
wait, here's another one right here.
I was going somewhere with that. I kind of lost it. That's me. Late night on a Thursday.
If I were to had told you last year or the year before that, I did, but that AI would surpass human, content out there. Like we struggle to get thousands of people to listen to us with the algorithm, the shadow banning, whatever. But this AI fake singer's got 2,800,000 listeners. Who would have predicted that? I did. I predicted they would take over that. And then now we know that the companies are openly admitting that they're going to move to this idea where everything's fake. The podcast, the news, the newspapers, everything. I don't even believe every time now, like if you'd have caught me 5 years ago, I'd be surfing through X and Facebook and all the different social medias to find new things that are happening. I'd be like, oh, wow. And you come across this video and go, that's crazy. That's horrible. But now, what is the first thing that I do? I go check it to see if it's an AI video. I go find out if any incident actually happened. And you got to do that with every news story now. Like even with Venezuela, the night after, people were posting all these videos about the people, praising or hating our leaders or their leaders. And then come to find out at least 50% of it was fake AI videos. Another third of it happened in a different year at a different event, and someone just rebranded the video for now. So you can't trust anything. I don't even trust, like when you're looking at the nightly news, say you got on ABC, CBS, NBC, or whatever, are you even looking at a real person? Because it was over 2 years ago that China started using virtual people to do the news. I mean, and they still do. You can't tell if that's a real guy or they just filmed a lot of that guy and now they have a really advanced AI doing it. This is like, how do you know we're even here? I mean, for other people watching, how do you know? I've tricked them before, not to be mean, but on my own channel, I've made videos where I was an AI and no one noticed. And then other ones, I made it, obvious that it was an AI. And, of course, wow, why are you using AI? But that's the funny thing is they didn't know until I put the mess ups in it, the obvious telltale signs, skipping and blurring and stuff like that, or the lips not matching the which that happens with regular
Lips
technology.
like glued together and like coming apart as glue.
But imagine that a fake singer has almost
Yeah,
3 million listeners.
Well, the thing about YouTube lately, trying to find something on a certain subject, you go there, 9 out of 10 videos now is AI generated on those type of
Right.
AI generated content pieces that you to discern. The thumbnails are perfect. There's something about the person you want to see, this person you want to hear, but when you go in there, it's just that bunch of hodgepodge of smashed together news stories where that person only appears probably 1/20th of the time. And then it's all a bunch of, just slammed together. These bots crawling across the news are able to find 20 or 30 sort of related pieces and slam it together. Every channel that you see on there, most of their 2,000, 3,000 views, but they take up the whole entire site. Their human generated content just isn't there anymore. I mean, you really, really, really need to search it out because they're overwhelming right now YouTube with this AI stuff.
Right.
It's not even fun to watch. It's like your ear canal being invaded by that. I'm telling you.
Well, it's kind of funny because,
Keep your
with the
vibration.
conspiracy theory community, they're always accusing people of being replaced. Now we're actually in an era where they can replace you, just like Running Man, which, by the way, they're recycling that movie out again. They're going to make a new one. But if you watch the old one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, they did that exact thing. They would just change the news and put in people and remove people. If someone died, they would just put in a digital version of them to act like they're in paradise. Look, I won. I'm in paradise. So now we're at that age where they can literally replace someone.
Right. Yeah, you could replace somebody, couldn't you?
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
not
talking
hard.
about that. I'm just saying that all the content is no human generated content anymore on YouTube. You got to squeak through the cracks to find your favorite person you listen to, and you almost need to type their name in because they hardly ever come up on the sidebars any longer. It's
Right,
not
no
about
more
the AI
recommended.
generated face. It's about the AI had run through and pulled all these snippets from these news stories and slammed it together. A little bit different style than having an actual fake AI avatar up there with a digital voice versus they start off with a digital voice but the AI had run through and clipped 30 stories for 10 seconds each or a minute each, 15 seconds each, and was able to weave them together through its processing capability to actually make a real story out of that. And they're loading thousands and thousands of those per day. Because you'll notice it when you see it, it'll got like, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 views, but real good human generated content, 10,000, 15,000, 100,000. Those AI videos just don't get there yet. So you'll
Right.
know it's AI generated content if you look at it. It's only got like 1,500 views, 2,000 views, 2,500 views. And you look at the channel subscriptions, it'll be around 2,000 to 3,000 channel subscriptions, 1,500. Never really more than 10,000 on the channel subscription, or more than 5,000 even. It's always under that. And then they're just, there's like a bot farm of news. Annoying stuff to watch, really. It just irks me to even try to, I get so annoyed because I try to listen to real people to get some real data, but listening to like a mashup of news is not cool.
If you really want to find out how bad it is, just type in cat videos. Cat videos on YouTube.
They got AI cats now.
Oh, they're so good.
And the AI cat videos, no way. I want to see a person walking down the street wearing black robes turn into a white dog and walk away out of that. In a perfectly framed CCTV camera.
You remember those magic acts? You remember the magic acts where they would have the people come out in the animal costume and they're wearing a costume and they make it move like an animal. Now you can just take that video and give it to like Super Grok or something and they'll turn it into a real animal where it just morphs right into that. My poor kid, I bet I'm the first generation of parents that has to tell their kid that what they're looking at, although it looks really real, is not real. And, for a 5-year-old, that's hard to understand. What do you mean it's not a real cat? I mean that it never was there. It never existed. It's completely fake. And then when you compare it to the real cat videos, it's hard to tell the difference.
But then you have to give them a real cat in their hands so they could feel it and like listen to it and make it purr and all that stuff. That's a real cat.
I've been seeing the advertisement for the little robot cats that are supposed to purr and do all of that stuff. And instead of showing you the actual toy, they show you an AI cat.
I went to Tokyo and they had the dog. They had the AI dog there. It was a cute little thing, and I must admit it was cute. It was meant to be like puppy-ish, had all the face movements and everything, and walk up to you and it would, if you petted it, it would it'd stick its tongue out. It was kind of a cool thing. I wouldn't buy one, but those were quite expensive, near $1,000 for one of those pet dog toys. Like it would wag its tail when you come in. They had it up near the front desk, and when people would come in, if you were more interested in it, like I was, I'd jump on that thing like a duck on a June bug. I would, robot dog, give me that thing. Every time I would come down to the desk, I was enthralled with that. And like, as the workers had changed through and the staff and employees had moved through, like when it got a little quieter in the evening, come back, like, can I play with the dog? And they'd bring it out and let you like really experiment with the thing. And then once it came out, what was interesting is people huddled around the thing. Now, this is meant to be a surrogate of a real pet or whatnot in your home, but that's in Japan, man. And that was a couple of years back anyway.
You know what's not AI is bankruptcy.
Yeah, bankruptcy ain't AI. Come on.
No, I thought I would add this because, if you really scan through the articles, we're not really seeing the golden age. And maybe it'll take a few years to catch on to programs to start working out and whatever. But what I'm seeing right now is bankruptcies. They're taking the houses. People are getting laid off.
Yeah.
AI's replacing people at the job site. Even here in New Mexico, where they had the green rush, we'll call it that. They changed the laws. We had legal, things you could go buy. It got to the point where my little town probably had 20 different dispensaries within a mile and a half. Now, the new has worn off. I guess that's what it is. The new has worn off. And about half of those companies have now gone bankrupt or had to close shop because there's not enough demand for the supply. So the only answer that I see to that, because they're not going to destroy these products, they're already made, is that you're going to see 2 or 3 more states pop off with legalization so that they can keep making this money.
Absorb it.
Yeah. And then at the same time as we're sealing up that border, because I think what happened is the U.S. government and the state governments figured out that, hey, why aren't we making that money that the cartel is making? And the banks don't care because the money goes right through them the same way it would have if it was dirty money or clean money. So they really don't care one way or the other. And I remember there was a bunch of articles out talking about how much of the bank's actual money that they supposedly hold was actually dirty money or cartel money or criminal money. And it was a big portion, like up to 50 or more % of the money was illegal money. So that makes you wonder if we do have a problem with actual money in the monetary system, how much of that is just, fake money out. I mean, like the money that's never going to come back because it was never in the system in the first place. It was just being laundered.
How much of it was paper that actually ran through a machine, though? That would be another question. Like, and then where's that stored?
Yeah.
I know they always try to chip up a bunch of bills that are actually damaged bills, where they got tears on them or some kind of tremendous ink blot that they can't be used any longer. Like there's a lot of that cash that gets shredded and then burned. Okay. But are you telling me really that we burned all the cash from like 2018 and before? There's probably like incredible trailer loads of this stuff around, actually in physical paper form, because that would be asinine for a government to destroy all of its own money supply, like the physical supply. But keep in mind, though, most of the physical money, at least in the $100 bills, 96% is outside of America, way bigger than your number of 50%. Of all the $100 bills that you've ever seen in your life, only 4% of those $100 bills are in America. 96% are around the rest of the world. And you have to wonder about other smaller denominations too. That was just the numbers they had for the hundreds. I don't have any numbers for the ones, like how many ones are still going around? Not a lot, probably, because people always want to get 20s. Yeah, what's it say? Nearly all money, 92% is digital. See, and again, you're talking about physical form of all money on the planet is only 8%.
That's right. Sorry, I thought I was muted. Yeah, 92% of the money out there is digital. And that 8%, that's flowing around, but how hard would it be to convert that last 8% over to digital? Not very hard, obviously, if they've already converted 92% of it to digital.
Yep, and you put that in perspective. That's the last rounding error to get it there, right? It's not the beginning of some sort of spearhead push, pincer into somewhere, or it's the end of it.
Convenience,
And
tracking.
and those dollars at any time, if they call them in, that's all overseas money. The hundreds. And again, the
Right.
50s are very rare these days too. Although I went to a bank machine recently and it gave me a bunch of 10s, and I was like, that's
What?
weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
Like $300 out, and it gave me a 20s for the 200, like 10 20s, and then it gave me like 10 10s. I never had. It was one of my first times I'd ever gotten 10s out of a machine.
Well, it really does make sense why our government and previous administrations would send people pallets of billions of dollars of cash.
Cash, yeah, physical. That's what I'm saying. It's not in America. And how easy is that to launder? Oh, it's cash. You walk into a friendly bank overseas somewhere that'll wire it to somewhere else, that'll wire it to somewhere else, and it'll, eventually end up through some hedge fund into cleaned money,
Right. Like what did
Oligarchs are their oil fields are not good enough for the cash. We can't. Come on, man. It's oil revenue.
No, it just makes you wonder because obviously they easily track that. So when we dropped off several $1 billion to Iran, we know where that cash went into the bank and when and what bank. And that's making it a lot easier for them on the big scale to seize money. You keep hearing that, well, we seize these funds, we seize those funds. But that means it's that easy to just seize your funds and seize your property. It's all digital.
Yeah, we're the physical that was associated with the digital because, excuse me, the serial numbers associated with each individual bill obviously were cataloged, but that would take AI to come out and go through, like 2 billion bills and then like find the numbers and which bank it's gone to, because they themselves would at the end of the night go through every single bill and register that on a photographic system with all the serial numbers that they'd hoovered in for the day. And then how does that go out to other businesses, and how does that go from one person to the next person, and who's the last one that brings it in? Could have started at Johnny's drywall shop and then pulled out and came into Dave's account because I got some extra cash and I put it in, and somehow it went through 16 hands before it got to me. Like, the serial numbers are being tracked on the money too, everywhere, all the time, every day, anytime. What do you think? Why do you think you have to put stuff into a roller now by yourself and all these self-checkout things? Because each one of those is scanned, and that a serial number is associated with your face when you're going through, so they know where that money came from. Like, everything's being really tightly tracked and traced, and those serial numbers on those bills you put into the machine are tagged with your face. Now 50 other people will be tagged with it as well, but they want to know where it came into the system, where it went to somebody naughty, how it came into your possession, and how it ended up in the shop, because they can verify. Before, that was the thing about cash being anonymous. You put it over the counter. Now, if you go to anywhere to do self-checkout, all those numbers, those serial numbers, are on your face connected to it, which is insane anyway that they would be tracking, but they do. They track every single bill if they can. Like, when you go to a bank and you get out, let's say like $300, every one of those bills all those serial numbers have been codified into my name, that David took this, and this is the initial seed point of this $20 going back out to somebody else, because it'll leave my hand. And it'll go through the system. It'll eventually make its way back into the bank under a different name somewhere. But they'll follow that serial number every time it went through some sort of, I don't know, loophole.
Yeah, that was making me think right here. If I could get it back on here. Where'd it go?
You want to turn it on?
There we go. No, that, all these people are waiting for the Supreme Court decision to find out what happened to all this money. They already have the money. So if he wins and the Supreme Court backs Trump, then they get to keep those tariff monies or whatever happens to it. But if they lose, guess what's unlikely to happen? Refunds. nobody's going to get that money back that they already paid. It's just going to get lost in the system. And I was looking at this, speaking of poly market and stuff.
Well, wait, what about our refund? We were supposed to get a refund from that money, weren't we? Every American was supposed to get, like, you're laughing.
Well, it's funny because
I'll take an ounce of silver, dude. Give it to me. Give it to me.
Right. Let's see here. They got the one betting market, Kalish. Is that Kalishi?
Don't know that one.
Recently put up the likelihood of Trump to win the tariff case by 35%, and that was up from a low of 22% just before the Supreme Court issues its opinions for the day without releasing one. And here's Polymarket right here, was putting Trump's chance for victory at 33%.
There's the number 33 right there.
Right. So people are even betting on this. All this stuff. I know it may not be related, but it all reminds me of 9/11 put options. You know, we never tracked down those people. There were people betting against, you could say, the United States, and they were pretty confident that they were going to make money on that day with those airlines, with those buildings. And none of those people have ever been brought. Matter of fact, there's millions and millions that people were too scared to come claim. They didn't even want to get the money that they got because they didn't know which way the political winds were going to blow afterwards.
Yeah.
And then I saw today,
computers were destroyed too. There were no actual computers because back then, you know, they were saving things on disk. There was no cloud or cloud server type of stuff back then, right? So everything was actually housed in quote unquote mainframes. Yeah. The most secure mainframes were all in those buildings. So when the mainframes collapsed in the rubble and were crushed into pulverized into smithereens, there was no way to reconstruct it like we had today because that was far, far back. It was all taken away in rubbish and trash and like cycled, dumped in the ocean, sent to China for recycling anyway. Nothing.
But that's okay because they had copies of all those files at the Pentagon. Oh, wait, never mind.
Oh, wait, dude.
I forgot that got blown up too.
All the trading computers that housed all those different put options were destroyed after they were paid out, right, to anonymous accounts. At that time, Swiss accounts were still good. So monies had gone to Swiss numbered accounts. And then subsequently after that, the towers had come down because after the first one, the airline stocks just started falling like a rock. But those mainframes for the computer trading were in Tower 2 when it came down.
Right. And
just like that. And then, you know, what about all the metals and all the gold that had melted at the bottom and they pulled out of there too?
Yeah, that's just a conspiracy theory.
Right off.
They didn't even make a movie called Die Hard that was about the same thing or nothing.
Nah, are you kidding me? All those bearer bonds, dude. Those things burned up in the fire, but that dude's passport came out. What do you mean? Come on, everything.
Remember the whole thing with the construction trucks where they had the dump trucks pulling out all the gold in that movie while they were running off some other angle. That was, I'm not going to say they were just alike, but it was pretty similar.
If you were paying attention a little bit. Now, I do want to say one thing, you know, looking at silver here, this is off AppMex and JM Bullion's pretty similar. Like you go to these online bullion sites to buy. Check this out. If you're going to use a credit card or PayPal, which a lot of people are, it's going to cost you what? Does that say $109 for a 1 ounce round of silver there?
I think 103.24.
Oh, 103. Yeah, that's 103.24. That's the spot price. But when you go down, there's a premium on it. Where if you see that first line there, if you buy between 1 and 20 ounces, it's $109.62. Yeah. So if I buy, let's say 5 ounces and I'm going to pay by credit card, it's going to cost me $109.62 versus $103.24. There's a little premium on it. Well, a bigger premium on it now because everybody wants it.
Well, I think if you do that right now, you'll probably make about $90 an ounce by this time next year.
Maybe more even. Who knows? This silver doesn't seem to be going away. A, it's money. B, it's industry. And C, it is new technology that we're not really aware of that's out around us that requires an enormous amount of this that burns itself as the technology works. And some 0-point energy fields and 0-point plasma mechanics, they actually consume silver in the process of that combustion, or that it's not, the combustion is the wrong word. It's the synthesis that occurs to allow a craft to do something different than principles that we understand today. There's silver burned up in this process at the same time. Like, it's actually burned as we burn fuel. So newer tech requires silver, and they keep telling you this, but you're like, okay, well, they need to do a bunch of solar panels. They're going to do some windmills. It's not that. Silver's the fuel for a lot of this new tech that you consider anti-gravity technologies.
Right.
And new medicines also consumes the silver. Like, when you put it in to create colloidal silver, that silver actually physically disappears. That's the same thing when they're talking. They brainwashed everybody into thinking, oh, it's only going into the solar panels. Oh, it's going into the little microcircuitry in your mobile phone. It's not. It's because a lot of these processes actually consume the silver itself as the fuel for things that are being slowly unveiled into our world. So imagine you need to corner that as a new fuel supply for the new anti-gravity technologies. I mean, I would like to have a fuel station.
Well, speaking of that, mercury went up plus 27.81% in the last day.
What is mercury?
Just mercury, the metal that you would have to use along with silver for those type of things.
Yeah, and it would spin into a vortex when you put an electrical current into. If you've ever seen any videos, I mean, as soon as you put electricity into mercury, man, it starts spinning.
Well, no, I was just going along with that same thought process. You could kind of predict what they're making by the price of the metals that they need to make it. So mercury would be another one to watch.
Things are going to levitate.
And then, speaking of this, somebody asked about the pizza thing, and the pizza, what is it called? The Pentagon Pizza Index, powered by Polymarket.
I don't know what that is.
It's basically just a fancy Polymarket bet on whether or not we're going to go to war based on how much fast food the Pentagon orders at any given time.
No way. You're kidding me.
No, they have successfully predicted things in the past where military actions by the amount of pizza ordered at the Pentagon the days before. And they have DOCON 4. So I guess that's high.
Where are we at today? Is that a DOCON? Are we ordering a lot of pizza into the Pentagon as we speak or not?
It says, double take increased intelligence watch. Norway has deployed 2 soldiers. Wow, 2 soldiers. How about that? No,
that
but
makes headlines.
It's saying, like I saw one a minute ago, that one of the battleships has moved into the South China Sea out of nowhere. And then we got press secretary, blah, blah, blah. Let's see if I can move this because it had better news on it.
The DOCON, like, where do we sit? Like, okay, so pre-striking Iran last time, where was the DOCON at?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know how to look
where
at
are we at on the doughy scale here? Like, we're still needing the dough, or we're full on, baking the pizza kind. I mean, really, where do we sit in this?
Well, I think
sort of chart, like pizza's ordered with political events.
I think that they kind of, this is a joke on DEF CON, obviously, and we're barely at 4.
Like, so wedge of pizzas, the mouse and the cursor. That's funny,
right? So I wouldn't worry about it until the DOCON is like at 2 or 1. Then we're about to go to war.
Oh, okay.
Just like the DEF CON things, we're at DEF CON 1. That means that you got about 20 minutes to live. Why do you think Netflix keeps putting out these stupid movies? Like that last movie they put out that was about this, it basically was 20 minutes from like 4 people's point of view. They didn't even go anywhere. The whole point of it is that once they were launched, there was really nothing nobody could do.
Well, we might survive out here in the forest at the end of the road out here, the end of the power lines. We might get those cities would be gone, but there would be all the people still living out here, depending on how the wind would blow or not. If let's say they took 3 cities out in America, name your 3 cities, 1 on the East Coast, 1 Central, 1 West Coast. Wind's going to blow back that way. You're going to have 3 cities moving around, blowing stuff in. But in terms of the actual physical damage, like that spread between 50 miles of forest and then the city or something between here, like that's going to get filtered. Like the heat blast won't get out here.
I always thought that they would do something like maybe blow up a couple of those empty cities in China, and then over here in the US, it would be something like probably
Your ghost
Detroit or
town.
Phoenix. I would think Detroit or Phoenix. Phoenix,
Oh,
just for the specific esoteric name and the whole idea of the propaganda that would come afterwards about the Phoenix rising from its ashes, blah, blah, blah. But Detroit, a failed manufacturing center that used to be the hub of manufacturing, but not so much today. Now it's more just empty buildings and graffiti, kind of like that ghost town we were showing a minute ago.
yeah. I think it would have been kind of fun to rock up into Detroit in the like late 50s, early 60s. Like if we had a time machine, I think that would have been a very solid era to go up there and, look around.
See, they got real time tracking of the pizzas going right to the Pentagon. Look at that. That is high tech, man. So the more of these pizzas you see go over there, the more likely it is a bunch of people are in meetings about a future action.
National security, you have to shut that site down, man, because you're going to tell everybody when we're going to action.
Well, what's funny is ordering a different kind of food ain't going to help them out, you know.
Yeah.
If they ordered tacos that day, I think we'd still know.
They open tacos.
Actually, that would insinuate where we're going there, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Let me pop up a quick 1 ounce round here for everybody before we. Am I still sharing on that? Please allow me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if you look again at the price of any type, let's see, of the let's go our 1,000. You're not really going to get an ounce of silver for less than 5,000. Price is 48. But by the time you put in the premiums and that sort of thing, if you're going to pay with a credit card, which most people will at this point, they're like, I just want to get it, use the card, max it out, whatever, get what I can now, because I know next year, like you said, rightly or so, Ransom, that the price will increase. And this is also a very good hedge against if the currency devalues, this thing's still going to go up in price and it's going to hold its value. The paper goes bigger or smaller, the metal doesn't. So the last time you and I were talking about gold, it was at 4,000. Now it's at 5,000. It says 4,818, but if you really look at the credit card or even the crypto price, the only way you're getting to that is paying cash for it. If you're going to use crypto or whatnot, they're going to charge you for it, and PayPal even 1 to 9 ounces. But I don't know anybody that's going to order like 10 ounces and drop 50 grand cash on gold. That's a there's a lot of people who can do that, but generally people are going to buy 1 ounce at a time at this point at 5,000, 2 ounces, 3 ounces, 4 ounces, 20. Okay, that's fine. Get 4 ounces of gold. But I would, if it's a 5 already by the end of the year, it should, at least in my opinion, be around 7. It just keeps kind of spinning up slowly in direction. I'm just wondering when it's coming up and it'll go vertical up. But right now it keeps going up in a certain, like, follow the pyramids behind me. Gold is going the very same kind of just up and up and up, and it's going to continue going up and up and up. So if it gained $1,000 this last year, not a lot of people were on the demand of it, and this year everybody's talking about it. Do you think the price will go up further?
Oh, definitely. But, I just think it's really strange that now all of a sudden you can carry around 3 ounces in your pocket and have 15 grand on you. I mean, think about that. Now you can carry around a few ounces and go buy a vehicle with it.
Yeah, we're going through an airport. Remember when you could walk through with 5, 6, 8, 10 ounces, depending on the time of the year it was, what year it was, excuse me. Like if you're in the 1970s, $250 an ounce, you could have taken how many ounces up through an airport if you had the $10,000 limit. Now you're looking at what? Less than 2 ounces, and you would have to declare on those sheets when you land into a different country. A few years back, you could have taken 5 ounces. Now you can barely take 2.
Right. I just think it's a trip, though, that you could have, 3, 4 ounces in your pocket and carry around 20 grand just, in a little change pouch. Pretty cool. What was I going to? Yeah, here it is. So, speaking of the poly market stuff here, what's the odds on terrorist activities in a Ukraine style right here on our border. Latin American rebels could form a super guerrilla army to take on Trump. And if you were watching the internet in the last couple days, there's all kinds of memes about, people wearing sombreros riding tanks up to the border because evidently, Scheinbaum there is trying to, be two-faced and act like there's going to be some kind of resistance to us basically striking in Mexico, which is imminent. And a lot of you guys didn't believe me about Venezuela, but there it was. The U.S. is pressuring Mexico to allow U.S. forces to fight cartels. The United States is escalating pressure on the Mexican government to permit the U.S. military to target fentanyl labs, according to American officials. And then their response is, sending a bunch of really a joke. This is Colombia's Liberation Army. Now, the problem with Mexico is it's not a jungle in the areas that they would confront the United States. It is flat, arid, desert, maybe a little mountainous. Nothing like Afghanistan or other places, just a bunch of flat desert for the most part. We're going to see them for hundreds of miles away before they even got here, if there was. And it's a joke to even insinuate that they would form some kind of army. A guerrilla army would be the only kind of army that they would form. Nothing, substantial. That's just not going to happen. Hello?
People are going to come together at some point. There's always going to be some faction of people that's going to come together to protect whatever belief system they have. If there's look at these countries now, there's millions of them in a country. So let's say you have 10 million people. I don't care what your belief is, what the politics is, what anything is, of anything, there's always going to be a subset of people that are going to defend that, whatever it is. So there's always going to be some sort of standing resistance to that, a percentage, an acceptable percentage for, the oligarchs or the overall scheme of things. When it trends too large in a direction and volume and mass of people that plan didn't count for, that's when it gets squashed and comes up there. Over here on buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle, wanted to answer some questions if we had any tonight. Thank you from BB, bought us 3 double espressos. Well, thank you for doing that. Someone, always a fan, bought us 5 doubles espresso. Have a wonderful 2026. Thank you for the kind comments. Where are we going right now with people's belief systems of what they're going to try to defend and hold on to and fight for? Like the way I'm looking at it now in America, it's more about the dollar, the way of life that you had versus a standing army type of thing. I don't know. How is it going to go down here in America is the question. There's so many people believing so many things, but there's sort of a pendulum and a mass moving in one direction or the other. If you see a school of fish swim in the ocean, they go whoosh. We're seeing the same thing right now. Whoosh. You like the sound effect. I know you did. Where's it going to go to, and how many people are going to try to defend that thought or way of life before things really tip out of manageable control? And like you said, an Insurrection X, is that going to be at the beginning of it? Because once that's invoked, I don't know what happens after that. It's been quite some time since it has been, and the rules were different at that point. So where does it come to? And I'm definitely got to be some law and order put back into this country here. Like the whole protest, you can't let us break the laws anymore. We want to break the law more. Like, all right, dude. I'm not talking about the immigration thing. I'm just talking about cracking down on just regular criminality. And people are protesting, you got to let them be bank robbers. Damn it.
How dare you stop them? They were just feeding their families.
How you dare stop those bank robbers? They have a right to be a bank robber. They identify as a bank robber.
I hate to say it, but there's going to be a lot more identifying as were.
Was, were. That is their pronoun.
You know what was weird about that thing is I know there's a national debate on the shooting that happened with them or whatever, but if you take it out of that context and the argument about immigration, any normal logical person that's ever watched the news or any social media knows that if you push the gas in any semblance of a direction towards law enforcement, they're going to do the same thing. I don't care if it's a local cop or a federal cop or a park ranger or whatever it is. If you push the gas in a vehicle towards them, they're going to do that. Even if their policies say don't do that, they're still going to do it.
They're human. They're reacting out of,
Well, what would you do?
the million movies that they've seen. Do this when that person tries to run you over. Because you always see those, I don't know, like videos where the sheriff will stop somebody or the policeman or highway patrol will stop somebody on the side of the road, you know, and they'll try to get away and run them over at that time.
Right.
Like there's a lot of those videos
Right.
out there.
Don't do it.
You're gonna get shot, dude.
I'm just saying.
Like we know that we're white dudes, dude. Like,
Well, that just seems like common sense to me that
common sense. Yeah, forget any kind of nationalities or anything. DNA, forget it. Archaic DNA. We ain't talking that. Common sense.
you know what? Get out there on the train tracks and put your hand up and tell that train conductor to stop for you that you're protesting.
Stop.
Guess what happens? They don't stop.
There's a kitty cat on the tracks right here that's holding a global warming sign. Do not run that thing over. Stop.
Are we still warming though? I don't think so. It's pretty chilly where I'm at.
I don't think so. So that poly market bet might be something interesting to look at in global temperatures cooling. Anyway, thank you for joining us tonight. David Dubine, Ransom Godwin signing off every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight.